Sri Krishna Vyasa Acharya Vishkanam Paschima Bhage Madhye Sri Sanaka Jami Sri Sanaka Jami Sri Sanaka Jamaha Asam Samarpayami.
The fourth Panchakam is the Sanaka Panchakam. Here, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanātana, and Sanat-kumara are the four who are venerated. The fifth that is added to this Panchakam is Sanat Sujatar. The first four together are called Chatussana, four names beginning with Sana. Sanaka means the ancient one. Sanandana means one who is ever joyful. Sanātana is one who is ever eternal, and Sanat-kumara, one who is ever young. These four are the mind-born children of Brahma. Just as a spider weaves its web from its own person, from its own self, so too when Brahma started creation, he thought and conceived these first four children. The four children were pure sattvam. They were full of jnanam, knowledge, being Brahma's children. However, despite the fact that they were created to assist in creation, they were not interested in doing that. They wanted to pursue Atma Jñanam and stay within that knowledge. So these children stayed children. They are ever 5 years old. They are always seen together. In fact, as little children, the four of them don't even wear any clothes. These very young brahmacharis went to Shiva to learn. Shiva took the form of Dakshinamurti and taught them all that he knew. The four of them travel all over the universes, teaching and spreading Atma Jñanam. They are said to reside in Janarloka, where intellectuals are present. The Shanti Parva of the Mahābharata describes the discourse given by the four Kumaras to Vritra and his guru Shukrācharya. The Bhagavata Purana tells of the visit of the four Kumaras to the court of King Prithu. The Purva Bhaga of the Naradiya Purana and Upapurana has four padas. Each pada has been narrated by one of the Kumaras to Narada. Brahma received this knowledge of the Puranas from Vishnu. He taught it to his four Kumaras. They then taught it through the Naradiya Purana to Narada. Narada transmitted to Vyasa, and Vyasa brought it down in the form that we know it today for all of us to read and learn. Sanaka is the first to be venerated during the Vyasa Pooja in the Sanaka Panchakam. Therefore, he is invoked in the line that is in the center of the other four.
Sri Sanandana Sri Sanandana Jami Sri Sanandana Sri Sanandana Asam Samarpayami.
Sri Sanandana is the second of the four Kumaras whom we venerate. The four Kumaras went to Vaikuntha, although extremely ancient in age, although extremely knowledgeable in Vedanta, Advaitic philosophy, and the true knowledge of the self. They were also extremely innocent, as 5-year-olds would be. They walked right through the first 6 dwaras of Vaikuntha. When they came to the 7th dwara, they were stopped by the doorkeepers, Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya found it extremely funny to find 4 little naked boys demanding entry at the doorway. The boys presumed that they could just walk in. This amused Jaya and Vijaya no end, and they proceeded to ridicule the 4. They did not have the wisdom to see that these 4, despite their age, were ultimate Jñanis. For their transgression, the Kumaras had told them either they could be born over and over again on earth as bhaktas and work out this bad thing that they had done, or They could be born thrice as asuras and work out their bad karma. Jaya and Vijaya chose the latter, to be born as asuras 3 times on earth. The first time during Satya Yuga, they were born as Hiranyakashipu and his brother Hiranyaksha. The second time during Treta Yuga, they were born as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. The third time during the Dwapara Yuga, they were born as Shishupala and Dantavakra. Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanātana, and Sanat-kumara are always mentioned together in the Bhagavatam. It says that they would travel wherever they pleased without any material wishes in mind. They were so pure and their interests were only to spread their knowledge, the Veda and the Vedanta.
कनकस्य दक्षिणे भागे सनातनाय नमः श्री सनातनं ध्यायामि श्री सनातनमावाहयामि श्री सनातनाय नमः आसनं समर्पयामि श्री सनातनाय नमः पादयोः वाद्यं समर्पयामि श्री सनातनाय नमः अर्घ्यं समर्पयामि.
These four Kumaras were the epitome of Atma Jñanam. What is Atma Jñanam? It is knowledge about the self. Who are we? Are we this body? Are we more than this body? What are we really? Our culture is the only one that has probed the depths of this question. We know that our body, our physical body, is only transient. The physical body is a home. It is a temple for something else. What is that something else? We call that something else Atman. The Westerners say soul, but the word soul is a terribly misconceived word. The word soul actually denotes what we call the mind. Going back a little bit, what are we made of? We are made of the Panchakarmendriyas, our 5 physical sense organs. Then Pancha-Jnanendriyas, that which actually makes these sense organs work. For example, we have an eye and an eyeball. But what makes us see? There is a subtle power that makes us see. That is the Jnanendriya. Then we have the Pancha Pranas. These pranas are the energy life forces that make everything function within us. Then we have 4 aspects which only our culture describes: the manas, the buddhi, the chittam, and the ahankaram. Typically, the West knows of the mind and the brain. The brain is something physical, the mind is something subtle, and that is the end of it. What they say is the soul is nothing but the mind. The mind has several aspects to it. Our ancestors have gone so much deeper into this, where they've separated each aspect. The manas, the mind as we know it, is something that causes chanchalam. Should I do this? Should I not do this? It is always in a state of flux, a state of indecision. It's always evaluating its surroundings. The buddhi is something that is intellect. It comes from a more logical, stable, subtle plane where it knows what the right thing to do is. We are often advised through prayer and meditation to transcend the manas and work from the level of our buddhi. Then comes chittam, our capacity to remember and store memory, and ahankaram, our self-identifier, the one that says, I am who I am.
कनकस्य पश्चिमे भागे श्री सनत्कुमाराय नमः सनत्कुमारं ध्यायामि सनत्कुमारमावाहयामि श्री सनत्कुमाराय नमः आसनं समर्पयामि.
Of the 4 Kumaras, a lot more is known about Sri Sanat-kumara. Sri Sanat-kumara speaks at great length in the Shanti Parva of the Mahābharata. Sri Sanat-kumara advises the Munis and even gives a lot of bhashyams on what Atma Jñanam is. He also instructs on Bhuma Vidya in the Chandogya Upanishad. The cause for ultimate freedom of the self is the realization. That realization comes only from learning, he says. We all think that we can be spiritual beings, but we don't have to be religious. The question is, what is the two? Religion is a tool to develop our spirituality. Without religion, without the discipline, our spirituality can never grow. How do we know this? By practical example. What is the need for somebody as great as the Shankaracharya to be doing puja? What is the need for all this? Is he not the most highly spiritual person we could have ever come across? He is, and yet he has his anushtanams, his practices, his japam, his prayers. He is setting an example for all of us. He is a Jivan Mukti, one who realizes and knows all even while living here on earth. When someone like him shows us an example, we should also follow. We should not dismiss religion as something we don't need. People often say, "Oh, I meditate, and when I meditate, I see a white light and I see the purity and the ultimate reality." What they realize as ultimate reality is not a realization at all. This is completely erroneous. This is because the Atman is not something that is knowable like a chair or any other object of our perception. We are the Atman. It is not something that appears to us. It is something that causes us to perceive. How do you know? When you say, "I caught myself thinking," who is the I who caught yourself thinking? It is that I, that Sakshi, that is the Atman. We often see waves. We identify a wave by its name, by its form. We have given the form the name of a wave. When the wave blends into the waters of the ocean, it is a wave no more. It is just water. Just like that, when we dissolve our identity, our association with the self, which is an extremely strong association, we realize the true nature of who we are.
उत्तर भारते श्री सनत सुजाताय नमः सनत सुजातं ध्यायामि श्री सनत सुजातं आवाहयामि.
Sri Sanat Sujata is another Atma Jñani. He is another great teacher of Vedanta. In the Udyoga Parva of the Mahābharata, an entire section called the Sanat Sujatiya. The Sanat Sujatiya is about Atma Jñanam. One of the reasons for this portion being very important was that Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavad Padacharya himself wrote a commentary on it. Dritarashtra had some doubts, for which he asks Vidura. Vidura says the best person to answer that is Sri Sanat Sujata. Sanat Sujata then teaches Dhritarashtra why death does not exist. Sanat Sujata also explains the importance of Brahmacharyatvam and the need for a guru. Here it is important to note that the word guru means someone who has learnt in a Guru Shishya Parampara. It is not somebody who has just suddenly received some spiritual or magical powers. These people are often siddhas. There are many people who can attain these siddha powers, but not all of them are capable or can be gurus. The Guru Shishya Parampara, like mentioned before, comes through Vyasa. Vyasa himself was a guru's guru. And from that parampara comes Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavad Padacharya, and from Adi Shankara comes the Guru Shishya Parampara of our Kanchi Shankaracharyas. Rishi Sanat Sujata says that some say that death is avertible by particular acts, and others say there is no death. Dhritarashtra thou hast asked me which of these is true. And then he says that both are true. The learned are of the opinion that death results from ignorance. Therefore, ignorance is death. The absence of ignorance, Jnanam, is immortality. It is because of this ignorance that asuras are subject to defeat and death. And it is the absence of ignorance that makes the devatas very pure. All these five rishis ultimately teach us that knowledge, jnanam, is the most important. It is only through knowledge that we can be emancipated. It is not just knowledge of material things, because Narada himself says he knows everything. He bemoans to Sanat-kumara. He says, Great Master, I've studied the Rig Veda, I'm proficient in it. I've studied Yajurveda, I'm a master of it. I'm an expert in Samaveda, I know the Atharva Veda. I'm a master of the epics and Puranas and everything about grammar. I know mathematics, augury, the science of treasures, logic, ethics, politics, astrology, astronomy. I know the 6 auxiliary rims of the Vedas. I know physical science, music, art, and dancing. There is nothing practically through the course of which I have not passed. And yet, I have this sorrow. Sri Sanat Sujata then explains that nothing outside of the self can help the self. It is only the knowledge of the self that can help. Atma Jñanam.